Shapiro. I'm one of the co-founders and co-organizers of the People's Puppet Parade. And when I'm not doing that, I teach. I also work with kids in a bunch of different capacities. I play music, and I'm a cultural organizer. So historically, it's been 2 times a year. There's a lot of different origin points, and at this point, I feel it's a bit like a myth or legend. And when I tell it in different settings, I highlight different parts. But the basic ingredients are, in the years leading up to the Puppet Parade, and the first one was in 2020, there was a really vibrant young adult, mostly anti-Zionist Jewish scene here in the Valley. And in other cities, like in New York City and in Boston, there were these big spectacle productions where, for example, there's the Yiddish Spectacle Committee, which every year for Purim would put on these completely over-the-top Purim spiels. And I heard about something starting up in Boston, which was called Grogger. And I kept thinking, like, what's stopping us from having the Purim party of a lifetime? Like, just because we're not in a huge city doesn't mean we don't know how to throw down. And so I have been doing for several years, starting in 2018, an apprenticeship with Jenny Romaine, who is one of the main people who was involved in the Yiddish Spectacle Committee. And she's a lifelong Yiddish cultural organizer, a puppeteer. Many generations of people have passed through Jenny's work. So a lot of the scene has this kind of initiation into archivally researched spectacle. And I put out a big call to anybody who wanted to be involved to write a Purim spiel. Purim spiels are traditional plays that happen in the Jewish holiday of Purim, which is usually in February or March in the month of Adar. And the idea of Purim is it's this whole topsy-turvy world. Queen Esther has to hide that she's a Jew, and she goes to this palace. Lots of things ensue. There's an evil guy named Haman, and when you say that, everybody says, boo. Boo. Oh, y'all are not ready. We got a couple months.
1, 2, 3.
Boo! That's more like it. We put together a Purim spiel that year, which was something we had never done as a community. It was a huge spectacle. We built props. We built a guillotine by hand, and that was also something we hadn't been doing together, really. We hadn't been building props and making things, and afterwards, we had this huge Budapest dance party. And I was like, that was a great party. And it was like March 12th, 2020. And I was like, guess we'll never do it again. So there have been a lot of momentum from that. And people have been really engaged with the process of community devising. And we started up with these birthday parades. So we would go to people's houses. And this became like a big tradition around here. Get together, like all the person's friends, knock on the door on their birthday and be like, full band of musicians, unicycle, juggler, and like really whatever skills people had that were kind of in the back pocket. We'd go in front of the person's house, we'd do a little song and dance, and we'd kind of parade around and bring a little bit of joy. The past couple of parades have been much more narratively focused. The earlier parades were more like, we know some songs and we are going to do a dance. And now they really have stories. This last one, actually, though, Weaver said after the Purim parade, I have an idea for the fall parade, but I'm not going to let myself start preparing yet. But a movable graveyard. And I was like, oh, cool. So because they had planted that seed already back in March, I kind of had that sitting in my mind for a long time. And the Goylem stuff kept coming up as well. There was a lot of mentions to it. And I just thought, this is interesting. And, we were looking at a real year of destruction. And what are the stories that we tell about destruction in the Jewish tradition?
I'm Weaver. I'm the co-artistic director of the People's Puppet Parade, and I do a lot of things. I do some Yiddish translation, I do some storytelling and performing, and directing and various theater things, work as a stagehand and carpenter and build a lot of stuff. I think the idea was influenced by a lot of different current events going on in the outside world and also my own dreams and imagination. Part of that was the fact that we were in the middle of a genocide and a lot of people are dying without respect and care and unjustly, and their graves are not marked, and that loss is not being really felt by the public world. It's a little bit of a speculative imagination. What if a way that we could mourn the dead is with like a movable graveyard to mourn all of those who don't have a resting place?
Yeah. I think this is just we were drawing a square. This is a little rough prototype of our big golem creature that we're all going to be making out of these tombstones. You can see this one that Evan made, which is incredible. This kind of raised relief type thing made out of cardboard. Oh, Candace, can I have this for 1 sec? That's what I was just going to. Perfect. So everyone's going to make. It's cutting out shapes. We've looked at this, reference photos of these beautiful, brightly painted tombstones. People have done their own sketches. We've mapped out who's going to do the arm, who's going to do the leg of this big golem creature. And then this is the prototype, so people are going to cut out 2 stones. We've got this kind of spacer to 3Dify it of these little nice triangles. I just paper mache the edge of this one. These are my prototype little reference pieces, but the ones we're making are mostly going to be a lot bigger. You can see how big Sakia's is. Yeah, people are diving in. But they're going to work kind of like this, and they're all going to come together to make limbs and arms and hands and feet. Yeah.
My name is Sarah Bluestein. Currently, I'm one of the core organizers of the Puppet Parade, and I think one of the parts I'm most excited about is the puppet fabrication and design process side of things. But I hadn't ever made a big puppet before the People's Puppet Parade, when we made this big corn man. Weaver designed this puppet, and Weaver and I and Eva all built it, and it was such a special and magical thing. I think we did it in 24 hours. It was just all of us wanting to build a big puppet and just figuring out how to do it as it went. And I think, yeah, that was just a really special moment. In those days of the parade, we were really doing everything within like 48 hours. So we were kind of co-creating this story and also building this puppet in the same moment. I think the past, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 parades, I've definitely done more kind of facilitating the build type role, which is really fun to me and I really like it. And I think that came out of a place of our parade scaling up and figuring out what that looks like. Especially this last parade, in my opinion, I feel like the design process, I don't know, we just got to incorporate so many things that we've learned in the past few years. So people could show up at the beginning, and if they wanted to, they could make their own gravestone, and they could do it from the beginning through the end of the process and even carry it in the parade. Or they could show up to the first design meeting, they could design something and someone else would build it. Or they could build the first step of it. And I think for me, something that happened at the first Purim parade, I think, Weaver and I made this big fiddlehead puppet. I mostly built it and Weaver mostly painted it. And a really special moment happened with that puppet that I think like inspired how I want these parade builds to feel, and kind of the ways that I'm thinking about making this process is that, yeah, I had built this puppet for a few days, Weaver had painted it, and it was like an hour till the parade, and we're all getting ready, and there's a bunch of people around, and people are tearing fabric to have these kind of long ribbons come from the puppets, and people are learning music, and people are learning choreography, and everyone's running around, and someone who I didn't know before came up to me, and they were like, can I glue flowers onto this fiddlehead puppet with these like little fake flowers? And I was like, whoa, sure, okay. And it was just like, and it was awesome, and it looked so cool, and it's something I never would have thought to do, and it just was such a sweet moment where I was like, oh yeah, like I want to feel like I don't have like ownership over this puppet. Like I would love to hand this off to you to put flowers on it, and you just saw it 10 minutes ago, and you were like, wouldn't that look awesome? I don't know, and I just feel like I just always thinking about how to make space to be like, we're making this very specific project and we want you to come be a part of it and also bring what you want to it and also be guided by this project that we've been doing for years, and also it can be shaped and go in so many different directions. So this is the fiddlehead puppet I was just talking about, and I think I wore it on my head for the parade. It's got a bike helmet underneath, and in this iteration of the Spring Purim Parade, it was Esther / the spirit of spring, and it was kind of a mummer's play style play, and it battled the Haman spirit of winter puppet. And these are the flowers I was just talking about that are amazing. And like, I don't know, maybe we had a plan to glue like 2 flowers on it or something, but I just loved what ended up happening with it. But yeah, I think, you know, it came out of having so many people in the area who had a Yiddish background for various reasons and who were organizing leftist Jewish community, and also we were doing these birthday parades and we had musicians to sustain this and who were walking around and excited to do this. I think the first time we did the parade route, we were like, whoa, we've done this as a birthday parade route before. Like, so many of us living in the neighborhood together. So I don't think the parades would exist in this form without these musicians who are at the heart of the community. And also just so many musicians who also do so many other things that are also visual artists. I think it would be a really different project if it was a bunch of us making puppets and then like some people who we know who played music like came in at the end to like play music for the parade. I think like the music being coming out of the core organizers and core people involved is really crucial to the project.
I'm Rachel. I live here in Northampton, and I also grew up here, and I play klezmer violin, and I'm also a cultural organizer in the area.
And I'm Ariel, and I'm an accordionist and cultural organizer, and help start the parade.
Klezmer music, like so many different folk music traditions, is largely an oral tradition or passed down through listening and through immersion and through kind of being part of the fabric of life and the fabric of culture, fabric of the neighborhood, of just being where you are. And I feel like so much of the work that we do beyond just this parade is kind of like bringing that into the fabric of this community that we're creating, not just during the day of the parade, but kind of year round and in the many different ways that we do that. And so I feel like a lot of our approach is kind of multi-layered in that way of we'll be playing music during our lunch breaks or just in between builds and kind of all around and kind of invite people into that world and that soundscape. And then also kind of like pedagogically providing some way to kind of like learn kind of like an entry point of like how to learn the scales that make actually learning the music by ear more approachable.
Like oftentimes people who are marching with us too are people that we play with regularly, so we're like pulling from our shared repertoire and trying to be like, okay, everyone knows this Frelix, so do that.
And it's really fun to like play tunes that people are either really familiar with, that they've heard and like can sing along with, and they identify and like resonate with that. They know it, like even if they're not in the klezmer world, and then also kind of like expose people to like the wide variety of like klezmer music. Yeah, I feel like any like folk music really kind of like it's around being together and kind of like learning repertoire together. So I feel like it's not necessarily even an emphasis on performing always. It's really just kind of like learning together, I guess, and like learning with different generations or different levels of experience and can share repertoire. And it's also interesting to share like what's hip today, which is like that tune from 1910 that people are all playing now. So it's kind of funny, like, oh, this is what the young kids are playing. I think we're lucky that more and more people are getting interested in this, and there's more opportunities to gather and learn together.
Yeah, like, and we've often show up at like actions and rallies. Like we've played a driver's licenses for all, and so that's where sometimes the music. Yeah, like I feel like we've really learned and grew together, like playing in the streets and also just like marching while playing, which isn't easy. Like doing all of this, like it's like a whole other thing. Those of us running the parade also come from Ashkenazi heritage, and so a lot of why we do this work is pulling from our own traditions and really like reclaiming them, because a lot of them have been like forgotten and or like not there's been like more of an emphasis on like Israeli nationalism and like so it's just like really going deep into like what are actually our traditions.
And as I was saying, like klezmer music really is like functional music for celebrations, for simchas, for gathering people together, for ritual, for commemoration, for signifying, that a moment. And a lot of the music is processional music as part of like a wedding function. Yeah, where people would go door to door or kind of march the couple to their wedding spot, and a lot of the music has specific march functions to it, or like this is a the specific piece for marching.
Well, right, like there's like marching the guests home. Der Es ist schon spät, like
Yes.
Es ist schon spät. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's very much like it's late. It's getting late. Like we're gonna walk, or as far as I know, it's like that was like a walking the guests home from the wedding after you partied and celebrated.
So there's definitely that tradition of processional and what that could look like today.
So we're about to go in the streets, and this is something that we do to practice being actually able to take the streets when we need to do that, whatever the occasion might be. So that means look around to your left and to your right. These are the people that are going to be with you out in the streets, and we are going to keep each other safe. For joy and connection, so they transformed themselves into a block party.
Protect me! Block out the heart!
They prayed once again for the dead to contort themselves into a new shape. A golem, a great being of protection and violence to destroy the unknown enemy. They carved the word epes, truth, onto its forehead, bringing it to life. How can truth be twisted into such violence? A great sea rose beneath them all, and the dead became the sea. the sea wiped away the word epes. Leaving the word mess, death, behind. Death remaining in the wake of truth, washed away. What had been the golem's body now returned to earth.
Oh, dead, we shouldn't have asked such violence of you. All we really want is to see you again. Please come back to us, live among us once again. Guide our hands, speak in voices we can understand. Be the personalities you once were, and tell us what your deaths mean.
And the dead answered,
To epes!
do something! The dead will not return until you make the world safe for their return. Between truth and death are the choices we make to build the world, to shape it out of clay. A golem or a clay vessel, a home or a weapon. Each act you do, each choice you make brings them nearer or farther away. It's time to ask the dead what they want. Close your eyes and ask. They speak their language in silences, in signs, in soft places and pattering rain. Write notes in rays of light. Find them.
Now you know the melody, join by singing the word. We are so grateful for you all coming today. And we have one last thing to ask of you. In your zines, you'll notice at the end that we are raising money today. And this is part of our do something, like we've just been asked to do something. So you can go to the last page of your zine to read about, but we're raising money for two families. One is right here, the Gonzalez family in Northampton. And you can also read about Ghazal, who just turned 24. She's living in Gaza with her family. There's 7 members of her family, and they are struggling to meet so many of her needs. We ask you to do something to help them live. And we ask that you sing with us now.
And may you strengthen my heart to move through grief and also take action. And may you strengthen my hands to tear down the walls and rebuild bridges. And may you strengthen my feet take to the streets.
Take to the streets.
To create a freer world.
It's hard to archive a parade, so good job trying. Good luck.